Today, if a child is kidnapped, the first people you ask and interrogate are the family. But back then, nobody was going to ask and interrogate Charles Lindbergh, the iconic hero of the time.
More than 80 years after Charles Lindbergh's baby disappeared into the night from his Hopewell, New Jersey estate and was later found dead on a roadside nearby, we're taking a fresh look at this case. And between a ridiculously short statement to police, new evidence that his son had some health problems, his bigoted views in support of eugenics, and his inability to account for his whereabouts the day of the kidnapping, could Charles Lindbergh be responsible for planning and executing what's been called the crime of the century?
That's the old theory that possibly somebody from the inside handed the baby out to somebody standing on a ladder.
I went to Highfields, the Lindbergh estate, with Gary Britton, a retired homicide detective who's been my partner for a lot of these investigations. If the kidnapping happened today, Gary said, it would be an entirely different scene.
If it was a prominent person such as this, you'd have federal authorities here. You know, a kidnapping, that's a federal crime now. It wasn't in 1932.
March 1st, 1932, between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's the window of time we're talking about for this kidnapping to have happened. Now, who was at the house at that time? Lindbergh and his wife, the butler and his wife, and Betty Gow, a 27-year-old nursemaid who was the last person to see the baby when she put him to bed and the first person to find out the baby had been missing. She immediately attracted the suspicion of both the investigators at the time and Gary.
To me, that would be who I would look at right off the bat. And you know, you're not only just going, okay, that's the last person that's seen the baby, but you're looking at, you know, the scene itself. And some of the things just doesn't make sense to me.
One of the biggest questions, how did the kidnappers know the right window to pick in this very large house? What about the pins that were used to hold the baby into his blankets? The blankets that were found neatly folded away, as if someone knew how the baby slept.
If you didn't know that, when you went into the room in the dark to pull this baby out, wouldn't you become frustrated? You know, and start ripping things?
Now, as you remember, our expert Lloyd Gardner says to this day the evidence against Bruno Richard Hauptmann, who was convicted and executed for the crime, is pretty overwhelming, at least in terms of the ransom money and the ladder that was built using scrap wood found in Hauptmann's house. But could he have had help? Could this have been a conspiracy? They only found $19,000 of the ransom money in Hauptmann's house, and there was $50,000 sent out in total, suggesting multiple portions. And if you want to go on a treasure hunt for that money, Bill, I have a start for you. It's in the New Jersey State Police archives, and it's a piece of a tabletop from the Lindbergh case. It's been there for almost 70 years. The story of the table starts in 1948, when someone found it and brought it into the state police, and it includes what you might say is a confession to the Lindbergh murder, written in pencil on it in German. It starts, "In Hamburg, I wore velvet and silk. I cannot tell you my name because I was one of the kidnappers of the Lindbergh baby and not Bruno Richard Hauptmann. The rest of the ransom money lies buried in Summit, New Jersey." There's a signature, NSDAP, the German initials of the Nazi Party. What makes this tabletop even more interesting is that when Mark Falzini, the state police archivist, took the ransom letters that had a specific signature at the bottom and lined the 3 holes up with the 3 holes at the top of this tabletop, they matched perfectly.
Do you think this is an important piece of evidence in the case?
Certainly seems to be.